Full and uncut versions available on Patreon. Check in the description below.
Greetings once again, Pokemaniacs. Duuz-Diz-Din back again with more of Pokemon Adventures, the manga, the Gold and Silver arc, and we enter into the final volume. Last time, Silver and Blue encountered Entei and went to battle the beast, still looking for a trainer worthy of him. But ultimately he ran to none other than Blaine, being the only creature capable with its sacred flame to heal Blaine's distorted arm. But this severed the connection between Blaine and Mewtwo, and thus Mewtwo was able to go off on its own and do whatever it chooses to do. But because of this encounter, Blaine was unable to participate in his matchup against Claire. Honestly, I feel like we're a bit at a loss for not having such an encounter. But Blue has his confrontation with his master Chuck afterwards, and finally able to best him through Chuck's teaching, honoring his mentor. We also had the battle between Erica and Price, and though Erica was deeply experienced, Price was a tricky son of a gun, managing to one-up her, showing just how wily he is. But just as it feels as though suspicion, since all of this is a mask for finding out who the masked man is, starts to fall to someone in particular, it is Golden Crystal who enter into the control room and are ambushed by Carl and Sham, who show off a broadcast of the masked man battling Ho-Oh. Just as Gold and Chris are able to overcome the two Team Rocket executives and disciples of the masked man, Silver is teleported out of the building by Green, who wishes him not to be caught up in what is to come, as Gold and Chris put out an announcement that Team Rocket is planning something devious with the magnet train, but it's too late. The magnet train enters into the arena, and hordes of Team Rocket members come flooding out. The gym leaders battle them back, only to be trapped on the train and sent elsewhere. This was all the masked man's plan, as he burst into the stadium with both Ho-Oh and Lugia at his beck and call. Chris and Gold do their best in order to fight back, but it's all they can do to survive, as the masked man manages to go for his ultimate objective, none other than Kurt. He wishes Kurt to craft him a special Pokeball, one that I believe will use the feathers of both Lugia and Ho-Oh in order to create something that will contain the Pokemon with the ability to control time itself, Celebi. The writing shows a depth and understanding of the Pokemon world that most other versions of this story never really go to, just because I love the idea that the golden, the rainbow feathers and the silver feathers have such an interesting connection. And I'm glad that they decided to start exploring that. It is the value of hindsight. And it almost makes me wonder what this series would be like with a little bit more hindsight. There's a wonderful degree of just understanding that they really bring to the table with this series. But maybe that's also the benefit of how long it takes for a manga to fully be completed, you know? Whereas the anime kind of flies by the seat of its pants a little bit. Even though I have to wonder, who gets more information, the anime or the manga? Or is it even, or not at all? Do they have to play the games as well? Interesting. Regardless, let's find out what happens next, now that the masked man has everything he could ever want, and everything seems to be going according to plan, shall we? Alright, this is a great cover for volume 14, with all the various Pokédex holders using their flying Pokemon, and then there's Gold with his Mantine. Just wow. Just wow. And because the big boy is there, gotta stick in Charizard, yes. I'm always tempted to include Murkrow, because I really do like Murkrow. That's why I say Silver has some of my favorite Pokemon. And I did like Aerodactyl. See, that's why I cut it down, because there's plenty of Pokemon I really do love, but it would get way too crowded if I went down that route. I at least try to cut it down to different types and stuff and put like the legendaries in their own kind of situation too. All right, let's jump in. Gold in all of his Pokemon. Nice little splash shot. And, oh, bit of a spoiler there. Couple of spoilers. Interesting. Well, it'll be fun to see how it goes down. Man, Lugia and Ho-Oh have never felt so fierce. The Last Battle, Part 1, Chapter 167. I love that they keep using the unknown to spell out stuff too. Alright, we pick back up in the crumbling Pokemon League Stadium. The masked man laughs to Golden Chris as he lands on the floor, having grabbed Kurt. He tells him, "Now, Kurt, you will work for me." Kurt struggles in the masked man's grasp, asking, "What?" The masked man tells him, "You must make it with your own hands. The Pokeball that can capture time itself." Gold and Silver are shocked as Kurt struggles. Gold calls out, "Hey, Chris, what did he just say?" The masked man says, "Your name is Chris." That move you just used, Future Sight. That was impressive. Attacking several seconds ahead in the future. It was only for a moment, but you were able to control time. Gold angrily questions, "What are you talking about?" The masked man waxes poetically, saying 3 years ago, the old Team Rocket was creating havoc in the Kanto region. They were after money and valuables. They wanted only power over things. A year ago, a group calling themselves the Elite Four tried to bring down Kanto's towns. They wanted land to create a utopia for Pokemon, a higher vision perhaps. But I am not interested in mere possessions or land. What I want is worth far more than either. What I want is time. To control time. Gold questions, "Time?" The masked man tells them, "I know you can do it, Kurt. I know you can create a Pokeball that can capture time." Kurt, still struggling in the masked man's grasp, says, "What are you talking about? A Pokeball that can capture time? I have the foggiest idea how to make something like that." The masked man, also with Kurt's granddaughter Maisie, it's Maisie, right? Yep, Maisie, being held by the neck, tells him, "Do you expect me to believe that?" Maisie calls out for her grandpa, and Kurt calls out, "Don't!" As the two struggle in the masked man's grasp. Chris calls out, "How cruel." The masked man says, "You're a stubborn man. Very well, I'll just take it from you." As he rips through Kurt's clothes, having grabbed the scroll from underneath. Kurt struggles to get to his feet, reaching out, shouting, "No!" As the masked man, having released Maisie, reads through the scroll. He says, "I know you always carry a Pokeball creation scroll on you. Ah, here it is. Heavy ball, lure ball, level ball, fast ball, and at the very end of the scroll, the capture ball," it reads. Kurt, now holding his granddaughter, says, "It's not that easy. Even if you know how to make it, you'll never pull it off without the right material. The net built inside the ball, the string to weave the capture net." The masked man tells him, "I have that already. The material to weave the capture net is right there," as he points to both Lugia and Ho-Oh. Yeah, he's going to use their feathers as the material. Gold and Chris shout, "What?" as they watch as the masked man sends his Delibird in, grabbing at both Lugia and Ho-Oh's feathers, bringing them to the masked man's hand. Chris says that's, the masked man tells her, "Rainbow Wing and Silver Wing. Woven together they will make the perfect net. Am I right? Have I found the way to enter the crack in time?" Chris says no in desperation, as Kurt nervously doesn't answer. The masked man cackles. But a voice calls out, "I can't believe you." It's Gold. Everyone turns their attention to him. As Gold angrily grits his teeth, he says, "So this is why you captured these Pokemon? You captured Lugia and Ho-Oh because you wanted to create this special Pokeball? What's wrong with you? Are Pokemon just tools to you? Material to make something out of? The Pokemon League, Kurt, Silver, and the others you train, and even Neo Team Rocket, are they all just means to an end?" "Well," Masked Man pauses for a moment, and nervously, Gold says, "They aren't. Are they? Maybe everything else, but not the Pokemon, right? Well, you honestly tell me that after all your experiences with Pokemon, that's all they are to you? Can you tell me that Pokemon are just tools? What are Pokemon to you? Come on, answer me! Let's hear it in your own words. He points to the masked man, and the masked man slowly turns, and he simply says, they're too angrier than he's ever been before. Gold shouts, you creep! The masked man then commands the burning ring around Gold and Chris to, I guess, start to enclose on them. Gold tells Chris to duck, and she does just that without missing a beat, as Gold is bound tighter and tighter by the burning ring. He then falls to the ground. Chris calls out to Gold. She tells the masked man, stop it. You have to stop it. The masked man then bores onto I'm sorry. It's just the menacing Delibird gets me every time. The masked man gets on board of his Delibird. It's even weirder now that he's extended himself so much, saying, I have everything I need now. I have no need for you anymore. The masked man takes off. Maisie cries in her grandfather's arms. Chris weeps over the downed Gold, but Gold struggles, saying, I won't give up. I'm not going to collapse until I stop that guy. But it seems that Gold couldn't go on as he blacks out. Meanwhile, again, it's just so weird seeing him. It's even weirder now seeing him on his Delibird like this. Like, dang. Also, I got so caught up into it, I forgot to add Lugia. Bada bing. Did he just leave Lugia and Ho-Oh in the stadium? Regardless, the masked man looks through the scroll saying, at last I have what it takes to find the crack in time. And now, I'm off to my destination, the gateway for the time-traveled Pokemon. Yet he unravels the feathers. It has begun my journey to retrieve my lost pack, and thus he creates it, the GS Ball. All the gym leaders are locked inside the magnet train. No one can stop me now. I gotta say, the masked man's mask looks so menacing when it has all that shading, but once you can fully see what his outfit looks like, it's like, that's kinda lame. Like, in certain angles it looks cool, and then others it's just like, that's kind of lame looking. We then pick up on the magnet train, where the gym leaders are continuing to fight the minions of Team Rocket, who I feel like they haven't noticed that these guys are essentially zombies. They haven't sent out any Pokemon from what I can tell. And you see some members surrounding Erica and Misty. Brock and his Geodudes are just decking Rocket members in the face. Chuck, it seems to be clotheslining a few of them. It looks like Janine got grabbed by her scarf while her Ariados is webbing up some members. Brock shouts, so their aim all along was to lure us away from the tournament site? Erica says they just keep coming, as Claire uses her whip, which, it's funny because previously in the series, the whole whip thing, Team Rocket members used to have whips because that was to show how cruelly they kind of treated their Pokemon, and even Sabrina had a whip. But I guess Claire maybe was the only one to be allowed to keep her whip. And even then, I feel like the whip got very quickly phased out of her character design. Because I don't know if I've ever actually seen her with a whip in most situations. I think it might just be the manga version. Because I don't think I've ever seen art with Claire with a whip. Outside of the manga here. I don't know, I feel like the artist or the writer just felt that Claire had a certain kind of vibe to her. But as Claire, brings some Rocket member down with her whip tied around their legs, while her Dragonair manages to bash some of them with its tail, Claire says, get out of my way. There's something weird about the way those soldiers are acting. They're being controlled. Controlled by someone who is in our midst. Oh, that's a damn bold statement. Also love this back shot of Claire. I swear, the artist, if you can always tell when some artists, where their attentions are drawn. And just this shot of Claire. Just dang. Feel like I'm about to see something I'm not supposed to from that angle. In chapter 168, The Last Battle, part 2. Missy says, no, it can't be. Erica questioning, what do you mean, in our midst? What makes you say that? Claire turns to them saying, I don't have any proof, but can you prove my theory is wrong? Tell me, as she manages to grabbed Blaine by his arm with her whip. She says, "You were gone for almost the entire time after the gym leaders matches started. Could you have been setting something up?" Erica says, "No, Blaine's body is." Claire then says, "And you're the last person who fought my big brother, aren't you?" Blaine questions, "Big brother?" He then realizes seeing Claire and her command of the Dragonair, thinking of Lance. Claire says, "We were meant to battle each other in the tournament, but thanks to the attack, we never got to have our match. Shall we settle things right here and now?" Misty calls out, "This is no time for us to..." But Blaine says, "It's okay. I don't mind. And I'd like you to go and help out the other passenger car." Janine takes off as Chuck has to pull Brock away. Misty and Erica are a bit silent as Erica just nods to Misty. So the two take off, Misty calling back, "Don't push yourself too hard, Blaine," as they go into the next car with even more of a herd of Team Rocket members. Misty says, "Okay, let's go. Starmie!" And Starmie just cuts a swath through the Rocket members, spinning all the way down. Erica thinks to herself, "You seem so zealous, Misty, as if you've prepared yourself for something." "Oh," Erica says, "Misty." And Misty turns to her and Erica pins a flower to her shirt, saying, "You have some feelings to deal with once this battle is over, don't you? I think I can help you with that." Misty is a bit flabbergasted as she calls out to Erica, and Erica says, "But first, we've got to do something about this army." Misty, still having her Starmie just swing through all the Rocket members, says, "Yeah." As Claire continues her confrontation with Blaine, he says, "Until a year ago, my big brother always stayed in touch with me, but since he fought you, he went missing. Maybe you'd like to tell me what the connection is." She has her Dragonair use Thunder Wave, and Blaine manages to leap out of the way just in time. Blaine, a bit exhausted, pants, saying, "You're talking about Lance, the leader of the Elite Four, aren't you? Why do you call him your big brother?" Which helps to kind of clear things up since they're actually just cousins. Yeah, she says, "He was my senior gym mate and my cousin." Blaine goes, "Oh." Claire, still angry, says, "Two would-be heirs were born in Blackthorn City during the Dragon Clan's former leader's reign. One was my father. The other was Lance's father. Lance's father was more skilled than mine, but he fell in love with a woman from Viridian City. He was never allowed to become the next gym leader." Oh man, some serious stuff, huh? That had to be someone from Blackthorn to become the gym leader, and some weird rules. We even see a flashback of Lance and his little baby Lance and his horsey battling against little baby Claire and his Dratini. He says, "And so my big brother left town too. But to me, he was still..." Claire shouts, "So answer me. What have you done with him?" He has Dragonair use Outrage, and it hits Blaine dead on, but Blaine seems to block it somehow. Claire is aghast, and she says, "A power strong enough to fend off Outrage? What the..." As suddenly, Entei appears behind Blaine. Claire says, "That's..." As she's knocked back into the doorway, along with her Dragonair. And as the smoke clears, Blaine steps forward saying, "If you're worried about Lance's well-being, there's one thing I can tell you. I don't think he's dead. After all, I'm still alive and kicking, and he was stronger than me both in body and soul." He leaves Claire with that as he takes off. He then manages to encounter Misty, and they make their way forward. We then pick up with Lieutenant Surge, which... I feel like I know where this is going. As Surge is confronted by a horde of Rocket members, he simply scratches his head going, "What do you guys think you're doing? Kid, didn't I leave you in charge, you idiot? Harry, your loyalty is to Giovanni, remember? Just because he's not around doesn't mean you can follow orders from some random poser." But I'm actually not sure who's who, honestly. I guess it's Ken, who brings out an artillery and has it use Octazooka, blasting at Lieutenant Surge, knocking him back. As Surge picks himself off the ground, he says, "You've even forgotten the sound of my voice. Nah, you're just being controlled like puppets." He reaches out for the mask on one of them, saying, "Without your willpower, you're nothing but tuskless brutes. Or don't you remember the boss's word? He told us when he created this organization, we're a force on the rampage, unstoppable. And our elite soldiers are our tusks. Raid on the city. Knock it out, my loyal evil tusks." Oh my god, really? We see a flashback of Giovanni addressing Harry, Ken, and Al, as well as Surge, Sabrina, and Koga raid on the city, knock out Evil Tusk, Rocket, which you didn't need to explain why they're called Team Rocket. Like, that, come on. I'm sorry, that's a little much, but it goes through all three of them. They say Rocket, Team Rocket. They start to fight against the brainwashing as Surge tells them, that's right, the mission Giovanni gave us, the words that inspired our name. You must regain your pride, as the masks shatter off of the three of them. And shoot, the shrapnel like breaks through the little connective membrane for the train. The elite trio say, Lieutenant Surge, Surge simply says, I finally remembered. Good, so I'm leaving you guys in charge of this place. I want you to wake up every soldier up. The trio asks, what about you? Surge tells them, I'm going back to Indigo Plateau. This attack on the train cleared everything up for me. That masked man went to the tournament to create havoc. I'll get back at him for making a fool out of you guys. He then reaches for the lever that uncouples the train and tells him, see it, as he sends the back train careening off. Or the front train? I'm really not sure what part is what. But Blue sees something in the driver's room, saying, the passenger cars in the back have been cut off, and the three cars in front are speeding up as he's just decking Rocket members out. Oh boy. Did Surge create a bigger problem than anything else? It's hard to say. As Brock enters the control room, he sees Blue trying to fiddle with everything. Brock asks, what's wrong, Blue? What happened? Blue turns to him saying, look, the magnet train split in the middle, and the speed of the half we're in is increasing. Brock, Erica, Chuck, Claire, Janine are all aghast. In chapter 169, nice. The last battle, part 3. Blue tells them, at this rate, Blue continues to try to fiddle with things at the control panel. Brock says, are we helpless to stop it? Blue doesn't respond. Erica questions, why don't we use the power of our Pokemon? Brock says, that's it. I could shake the ground. That energy would stop the train. He brings out 6 Geo, dude. I swear to God, he always has so many Geo, dude, who all form a ring, and he has all of them use magnitude, causing a massive tremor all around the train. Blue calls out, it's no use. We need more power. Brock says, shoot. And suddenly, something comes up on the control panel in front of Blue. He says, I managed to fix the program. It'll take some time. This train will eventually come to a halt. Erica says, Blue, you fixed the brake problem all right, but there's a dead end ahead. And she looks to the navigation system. Blue says the rail switch got thrown. We're on a spur line. Brock says there isn't enough rail left for us to stop this machine. If we hit that dead end at this speed, they all think of a massive explosion that ain't pretty. Meanwhile, in the latter half of the train, okay, so there were some gym leaders left on that part. Whitney has her, Cleffa and, what was the other one called? Cleffa and Igglybuff. There we go. I don't know why I was blanking on that name. I love the name Igglybuff. He has both of them use a track in order to, subdue the Rocket members a little. Whitney wipes sweat from her brow, exhausted, saying, we've gotten rid of most of them. If you need to heal your Pokemon, feel free to use my milk tank's milk drain, she says to Morty and his exhausted mischievous Faulkner, and Bugsy and his exhausted Heracross. But Bugsy then notices something, saying, hey, something feels different about the train. Oh, we even see their Pokemon going for milk tank's teeth. Ew. That got censored in the Pokemon anime, and they obscured it here. No. Look, it's a friggin' cow. Cows have udders. It ain't that weird. You make it weird by doing stuff like this. But Faulkner says that the number of soldiers we're fighting has suddenly dropped off. Surge approaches, saying, that's because most of them were in the front half, and the train's been uncoupled, he says as he takes off his jacket. Whitney asks, what? How did that happen? Surge smiles, saying, easy, I did it. And now, the half we're on is moving back, so we can return to Indigo Plateau. Whitney asks, what? But how did he do that? Surge says, this thing runs on magnetic energy. You create magnetic energy out of electricity, and that's my expertise. Oh, and what's my expertise? Morty says, electric types. Bugsy then asks, and how do you create enough energy to get this train to run backwards? Surge brings out a Pokeball bursting with electricity, saying, "With this." Misty says, "Blaine, the other gym leader chosen by the 3 legendary Pokemon must be..." Blaine says, "Yes. The Pokemon inside Surge's Great Ball is probably Raikou." We didn't even get to see the moment they teamed up? That's kind of a bummer. And I actually was hoping we'd see that, like, on the train itself. That would have been cool, but well. It's still cool. Missy says, "Raikou." While Blaine explains, saying, "You might be wondering why Raikou would choose a man like Surge. But whatever his past, there's no doubt that Surge hates the Masked Man for taking control of his former subordinates from Team Rocket. Raikou must have felt they had something in common." Misty looks to her Suicune, while Blaine looks to his Entei. Gotta get Suicune all up in that biz. Bada bing. Surge tosses his jacket, saying, "Great, Indigo Plateau is just around the corner. I can't wait for the train to get there, so I'm going on ahead." Blaine says, "Misty, let's go too." Misty says, "Okay." Blaine follows behind Surge, saying, "Hold on, Surge, I've got a plan." Surge turns, going, "What?" But as they show their Pokeballs, the three legendaries all lock eyes and smile. Well, at least Suicune's smiling. Suddenly, there's a massive flash, and something flies out of the train. We then pick up with the chairman in the rubbles of the Pokemon League Stadium. He gasps. "My plan was to gather the gym leaders here to uncover the identity of whoever was behind all this. But I never expected something like this to happen." And he sees Ho and Lugia continuing to rage, saying, "And to top it off, the Masked Man has gotten a hold of Lugia and Ho, legendary Pokemon. It's hopeless, no matter how skilled the trainer Professor Oak sent in is." But suddenly, Entei, Raikou, and Suicune appear, with Blaine, Misty, and Lieutenant Surge. As Misty calls out, "No, that's not true." "Oh, what the heck?" The 3 of them stand with specialized devices with their gym badges in them. What the heck? It's like a portable badge amplification device, just for the individual badges. And the Masked Man seems to sense this. As he turns, I thought he was already a whiles away, but up on his delibird he turns, going, "Who's there?" The chairman says, "You're Suicune, Raikou, Entei. The 3 Pokemon from the burned tower have come back to..." Oh no, Misty says that. "Suicune, Raikou, Entei, the 3 Pokemon from the burned tower have come back to stop you, and we've been chosen to fight alongside them." In Chapter 170, The Last Battle, Part 4. Experts in water, fire, and electricity, as they stride atop the legendary beasts into battle, all 3 of them unleashing their elemental energies. I have to assume that the badges are increasing their power. Oh, and just like with Gold before, the elemental energies create rings around the Masked Man, binding him down. And all 3 leap into the air around him. Blaine says, "We're not going to let you go that easily." Chris sees this and says, "That's Suicune and Raikou and Entei, the other legendaries from the tower." As the Masked Man sees this, he says, "Suicune, Raikou, Entei, you should have stayed asleep in your corner of the tower." As the Masked Man just flexes and bursts free of the binding, he calls out, "Come, Lugia, Ho-Oh!" And the birds flank him. The Masked Man calls them out to use Sacred Fire and Arrow Blasts, unleashed upon the legendary beasts. The Masked Man laughs. "Ha ha ha ha! Teaming up with a trainer won't close the power gap between us. On the contrary, you can't even use your full powers. If you use your maximum powers, a high-density energy field will appear around you, and the trainers will be unable to breathe." Which, what? What is that a thing? The voice calls out from the blast smoke, "You're right, but..." Oh, Entei enters the fray, managing to fight off both the blasts from Lugia and Ho-Oh. As Blaine says, "Don't worry about us. Use every power you've got, Entei," as he's using the device to breathe, which, why is that a thing? I mean, it does increase the risks of partnering up with a legendary Pokemon. Man, you always create risks when using legendary Pokemon. I guess that's why the Masked Man uses a mask. Proceeds to saying, "A portable oxygen tank. That's a good trainer, thinking about what would be best for the Pokemon to wield all its power." Blaine says, "I created this assuming that we'd have to fight one day. And that's not all, you know." All 3 of them press on their devices, which seem to have items in them. What are those? Oh, held item. Okay, I gotta look up what these are. Because I don't know what those are right off the bat. Mystic water, magnet, and charcoal. Okay, there we go. Because I know the held items, but I only ever look at the stats. I don't really always remember the name. And they attach them to their respective Pokemon, which allows them to increase their energy even more so, creating a combined attack that manages to blast back Lugia and Ho-Oh. Well, at least keep them at bay. Chris calls out, "Wow!" Serge says, "These items enhance different types of Pokemon's attack. I just handed Raikou the magnet that increases the force of its electric type attacks." Lane says, "I threw down charcoal burnt in the fires at Cinnabar." And Missy says, "And I'm using Mystic Water. And enhances the power of any water-type moves. A good gym leader knows how to draw out the best in their Pokemon. This is how we can repay Suicune and the others for believing in us. And it's the best way to stop you." The masked man calls out, "Don't make me laugh!" as he lunges in, managing to grab Misty off of Suicune's back. But even in the masked man's grasp, Misty calls out, "Suicune, rain dance!" using it against Ho-Oh. I'm thinking this is, empowers Suicune, allowing Suicune to challenge Ho-Oh. As Misty fights against the masked man, she says, "I don't understand what Suicune is saying, but my star me got Suicune's message and showed it to me with ancient glyphs. So I learned what's been going on for the past 9 years. Dang, Suicune had the deets." Missy says, 9 years ago, you had the legendary Ho-Oh in your hand, and you kidnapped the children who Ho-Oh recognized for their natural trainer ability, all because you wanted to control time. You intended to make those children do the research for you, but a group of Pokemon were enraged at you for using Ho-Oh for personal gain. Suicune, Raikou, and Entei. As Misty grabs onto the masked man's arm, he lifts her up saying, "Ha ha, you're right. All three were created from Ho-Oh's power. Consequently, they revere Ho-Oh as their master. You might call them Ho-Oh's personal guard, which is why they were foolhardy enough to pick a fight with me." Which explains a lot, because I kept thinking, Raikou, Suicune, and Entei, they're usually kind of cool with Ho-Oh because of what Ho-Oh did with them. So I was wondering before why it seemed like Suicune and the others were making preparations to stop Ho-Oh, but because they knew Ho-Oh's power would fall into the hands of the masked man. It makes a lot of sense. Missy says, in that battle, Suicune and the others liberated Ho-Oh from you, but in revenge, you sealed them away in a corner of the burned tower. Oh, was it ice that he sealed them in? Some kind of reflective ice? Huh. The masked man laughs. If you know that much, you obviously understand how this battle will turn out. They were unable to defeat me then, and nothing has changed. As we see Suicune dodging in between Ho-Oh's fire blasts. Suicune thinks, "Venerable Ho-Oh." Raikou thinks, "You must remember us." Entei thinks, "You gave us life 150 years ago." 150 years, like the original number of Pokemon. Raikou thinks, "Please break free from the evil grasp of that man, so that we may serve you once again." But Suicune is batted away by Ho-Oh, while the masked man flails with Misty, holding on for dear life to his arm. The masked man says, "Unhand me!" Misty says, "No, I'll never let go." And she thinks, "That's the promise I made Suicune, a vow I made before I even joined this battle." Misty calls out, "You're staying right here, no matter what happens to me." The masked man says, "You can't keep me here." Missy says, "Oh yes, I can. Take a good look around you." And the masked man realizes too late as he sees Suicune right next to him, forming its protective barrier. The masked man says, "Blast it." Crystal sees what Suicune is doing, saying, "That's the force field Suicune creates to immobilize its enemies." Missy says, "Yep, that's the crystal wall." As Suicune struggles. But back in New Barktown, Professor Elm, his assistant, and youngster Joey are trying to get the radio to work. Elm says, "Joey, what's the problem with the radio broadcast?" Joey says, "It doesn't seem like the radio's broken or that there's any kind of interference." Elm says there was a secret plan behind the opening ceremony of the Pokemon League. Professor Oaken, the director, wanted to gather every gym leader and reveal the identity of the masked man. Gold should be there since he's part of the plan too, but judging from the problems with the broadcast, I assume something has gone awry. Perhaps he is already... But Joey says that's not possible. Even if something's wrong, even if he got knocked down, he'll keep getting up again. That's just the kind of guy he is. As we see Gold on the ground, he begins to twitch. Alright, we pick up with the masked man being sealed within the crystal wall by Suicune alongside Misty. Misty says in relief, I did it. I won. In chapter 171, the last battle, part 5. Misty says Suicune formed the protective wall around you, which is why you weren't chopped in half. You can't move anymore, can you? Well, we attracted Lugia and Ho's attention. Oh, Blaine says, well, we attracted Lugia and Ho's attention. Misty grappled with the masked man. And then Suicune created the crystal wall around Misty. Surge says, it was close. It looks like we pulled it off, just like you planned. Good work, Blaine. And now I think it's time we gotta look at the face of this creep. But as Surge goes for the masked man's mask, he can't tell Flail saying, get out of my way. And did he just break free of the wall? Yeah, he breaks free. Lunges at Surge. Oh, I didn't notice before. The masked man was caught halfway through. That's what I was trying to figure out before. And I didn't realize he was caught halfway through, but he wasn't sliced in half. But as Surge goes for the masked man, what did he do? It's like he twisted his lower half off, which kind of reveals what he probably actually is. He twists off his lower half and lunges at Surge. Blaine calls out to Surge as the upper half of the masked man chokes the life out of him. Entei attacks, burning a hole through the upper half of the masked man where his heart should be, but much to the shock of both Surge and Blaine, nothing happens. The masked man just laughs and shouts, "Don't make me laugh!" And suddenly it's like a blizzard erupts from the masked man, launching Entei, Blaine, and Raikou back. Misty, on the other side of the wall with the masked man's lower half, calls out to Blaine and Surge. As Blaine struggles to get up, he says, what the? His body's been chopped in half. There's a hole through his middle, but he's still speaking and moving. Misty says, Suicune, we have to help. But Suicune seems to be frozen or poisoned? Something. Misty calls out to Suicune saying, why? And the upper half of the masked man laughs. Take a closer look. From his lower half emerges a Ghastly. He says, that is Ghastly's curse? She looks to what is affecting Suicune. He says, you used curse on Suicune without me noticing? The upper half of the masked man says, the crystal wall has turned against you now. The only one capable of erasing the crystal wall's force field is Suicune. And when the creator of the wall gets trapped inside, you've lost your only means of getting out. And the masked man's lower half kicks at Misty, knocking away Misty's breathing apparatus and destroying the flower that Erica gave her. Misty falls to the ground as the masked man is held aloft by Delibird. The masked man says, Ghastly, take care of the rest for me. And the masked man takes off with Delibird, Lugia, and Ho-Oh into the sky. Misty in the enclosure with Suicune starts to suffocate. Can't breathe. But Chris flies up with her not to, calling out, Misty, hurry, use your oxygen tank. Misty reaches for it as Entei and Raikou come up trying to break open the crystal wall. Chris calls out she's locked inside. We've experienced it once before, so I know there's no force field as strong as the crystal wall. The only way to get out is Suicune. Suicune, she calls out. Suddenly there's sound of a bell. Is it who I think it is? A sound of a bell resounds throughout the area. Raikou and Entei pause. Surge and Blaine struggle, and Chris says, that sound. A familiar hand reaches out, revealing one of the crystal bells. As the figure says, the autumn wind is wistful, so heart-rendering. Blaine says, somebody else is inside. Surge says, there's somebody besides Misty and Suicune inside the crystal wall? The man reaches out for Suicune, saying, I cannot forgive him for treating my beloved Suicune like this. He releases his electrode and Haunter. Haunter manages to knock back Ghastly as the man picks up Misty, saying, now, Electro, bring Suicune and this young lady outside the crystal wall. Right, he has the only way through. Chris says to the others, I've got it. That sound I just heard. It's a clear bell. It's an item that can neutralize the crystal wall force field. I remember now. There's only one person. One trainer with a clear bell. He can pass through the crystal wall as he pleases. As in the background, Haunter's just beating the ever-loving stuffing out of Ghastly. Haunter is just mollywopping that Ghastly. It's Yucine. I forgot all about Yucine. It's been so long since we've seen him. Oh my god. Man, what a Chad way to come in. As Yucine has his electrode with the clear bell bring Misty and Suicune out of the crystal wall. The others help them down. Blaine saying, Misty, hang in there. Crystal says, I'm glad she's alright. I know. Let's get him to treat Gold too, but as she not to, lowers her down to the ground. She notices that Gold is gone. Says, he's gone, Gold. No. Did he go after the masked man? We then cut to the gym leaders who were sent back alongside. Well, they were still on the train while Misty, Blaine, and Surge were making their way back. It's Whitney, Morty, Faulkner, and Bugsy, who kind of drew the short end of the straw, all things considered. Just like, the really important trainers are here with the legendaries. Then you have these guys who are they're kind of important, but their role kind of played out very early on in the series, on this half of the arc. And then you have the other important ones, which are the rest of the Kanto gym leaders, who are with Blue and the others on a train to destruction. Morty calls out, Director! As they approach him. The director says, it's you. Faulkner says, we reversed the magnet train and came back here after we defeated the Neo Team Rocket soldier. That image we saw on the screen just now, that's the guy who trashed this place, right? Director says, yes, an impossibly strong foe. He's not even human. He kept moving and talking even after his body was cut in half and a hole bore through his stomach. The other gym leaders are in shock. Whitney grabs the director saying, Director, what did you just say? The director says, that he is an impossibly strong foe? Whitney says, after that. The director says, Whitney says, you said he still moved after a hole bore through his stomach. Whitney's putting it together. This is the moment. This is the moment where Whitney actually comes into play because of what she knows. The director says, yes? She suddenly drops the director, and Whitney says, there's something familiar about this. The director questions Whitney, Faulkner saying, what is it? Whitney trembles, saying, I know who it is. She thinks to herself, the true identity of the masked man is, as we pick up with the masked man flying with his Pokemon. We see Gold just down below, riding on his Typhlosion, following behind. He's breathing heavily. Stay right there. I'm never gonna let you get away. While the masked man continues to grate more and more thread out of Lugia and Ho-Oh's feathers, which, dang, I didn't think they could unravel that much. The masked man laughs. At long last, finally, I get to see them again. My La Prus and my La Prius. Is he doing all this to see his Pokemon again? That's kind of sad and pathetic at the same time. It's almost like the mask is crying. Oh my god. Really? All this? Dang. It's like we took that... we'll get to it as soon as the reveal is made. The masked man shouts, Lugia, Ho-Oh, Will, and Karen are already waiting for me. Go to them. Oh, so they're still working for him. Interesting. That's kind of a bummer that that's the only way those two come into play in this. Although I know there's an arc after this that adapts from Emerald. Crystal, yeah. The masked man says, now, all I need to do is place this net inside the Pokeball to complete it. Oh wow, he already made the net? Jeez. Don't let anyone get near me during that time. Delibird sets the upper half of the masked man down as he says, the shrine reacts to the phases of the moon, and tonight is the night when the shrine will shine again. I made it, but a figure calls out behind him. You made it. Not so fast. You're not there yet. The masked man turned, shouting, you? As we see Gold, with all of his Pokemon at the ready. As he's let down off of Typhlosion, he says, I've come for you. The masked man laughs. You're pretty tough. I beat you at Elix Forest, the Lake of Rage, and the Indigo Plateau. But you still presume to challenge me? Your tenaciousness impresses me. Why don't you tell me your name? Gold says, since you asked, I'm Gold of New Bark Town. In Chapter 172, The Last Battle, Part 6, Gold unleashes something? Oh, wait, those are the... Crap, I always have to look these up. The focus bands. Yeah, okay, because I've used those before. Again, I rarely think about I look at what the items do, not so much what the items are half the time when I use them. But he has focus bands for all of his Pokemon. I love the image of the Remoraid tying the focus band around Mantine. It's hilarious. Oh, and Apom ties it around Sunkern's head too. That's amazing. Gold says, I'm not impressed by your ability to move in that body. I'm gonna stop you. Get everything you got, Abo, Sunbow. He recalls the rest of his Pokemon and sends out Sudowoodo and Apom. Apom dashes all around the masked man and his Delibird. Gold laughs. It's pretty speedy, huh? That's agility. The masked man, what the heck? Has his arm break off into chunks of ice to knock back Apom. But Sudowoodo manages to grab him. Was he missing an arm? Hey, yeah, I guess he was. It was really hard to tell. Yeah, he was missing an arm, but from his arm, Blizzard came, and he knocked back Apom. Apom seems to be downed, as Gold watches on, saying the arm he lost grew back. As the masked man's arm forms out of ice, he laughs. Gold questions, a body made of ice? The masked man with his new arm, he moves it gently, saying, I gathered the water in the atmosphere and freeze it, and endlessly repair my body, or enlarge it. Gold readies his cue with his other Pokeballs, shouting, you! But the masked man outstretches his arm, saying, fighting me is useless, as he manages to strike out at Gold, seemingly before he can hit any of his balls towards him. As Gold seems to be away from his cue and Pokeballs, the masked man says, give it up. You can never win. Gold wipes the sweat from his chin, saying, you're right. I don't think I can win. Maybe I should give up. The masked man questions this, as Gold just sticks his tongue out, saying, you took me seriously? Nah, stupid. As we see, he did manage to hit one Pokeball towards him, but the Pokeball hits another, and then another, and then another, which causes all of Gold's Pokemon to be released all at once, as Typhlosion, Mantine with Sunkern on top of it, and Politoed leap in towards the action. Politoed grabs onto Delibird and seems to be using Sing to incapacitate it. The masked man says, what are you up to? As something seems to hit him, as he's seemingly caught by Sudowoodo. The masked man questions, impossible. When did it get behind me? Gold laughs, surprised at Sunbow's speed. The masked man says, you mean, oh. Gold says, that's right. Baton Pass. The move that passes on the effects of a different move. Abo passed the speed boost from agility onto Sudowoodo. The masked man calls out for his Delibird, but sees Politoed and Delibird down together. The masked man says, you used Perish Song, which I don't think I've ever used that ability. Perish Song? Oh, that's why I never used it. Because I don't like the idea of having an ability that causes both Pokemon to be taken out. It's why I don't use Explosion. I'm like, no. And the ability that takes out both of our Pokemon? Nah, I ain't about that stuff. That's some messed up ish right there. I get it. If you're in a desperate situation, it might be a last-ditch move, cool and all that, but nah, I'd rather use something that at least can just, like, me and my Pokemon, we fight to the last, man. I ain't about that. It's a good strategy, but dang. Oh, the masked man then regrows his legs out of ice. But Gold says, I knew you'd do that. Sunbow. As the masked man sees something shining in the sky, he says, a huge sun? No! As Sunkern is shining atop Mantine. Oh, and he evolved into a Sunflora. Huh, what are the odds of that? I mean, it could have happened at any moment. It was at the right level. Wait, unless... do you need something in order for it to evolve? Did he have a Sunstone? You need a Sunstone in order to get Sunkern to evolve. Did he slip it in? Regardless, his Sunflora uses Sunny Day, and that increases the power of his Typhlosion, who looms in on the masked man, and it won't harm Sudowoodo since rock type. The masked man struggles in Sudowoodo's grasp, saying, "It's not fast enough. Freezing the water out of the atmosphere is too slow to counter this. The fire type attack enhanced by Sunny Day are melting my body." Gold says, "What do you think?" Polyboo used Perish Song on Delibird, so they both fainted, which, Polytoad taking one for the team. Abo passed it on its speed boost to Sudowoodo and held you down. Sunbow riding Tybo used Sunny Day from above, which Mantine is mostly just used as a glorified vehicle. Then again, ride Pokemon. And X-Bow's enhanced fire type attack will melt you away. Gold wields his Q-stick as a staff, saying, "That's how we fight together. Every one of us is a crucial part of the team, but you wouldn't understand, because Pokemon are just tools to you." As the masked man struggles, Gold lunges out with his Q, saying, "Okay, show yourself." And the masked man's mask shattered. Meanwhile, back at the Pokemon League, Suicune's crystal wall comes down, and Crystal and Suicune rush over to Eugene. Eugene gives a thumbs up, but suddenly the lower half of the masked man tries to kick at both Eugene and Crystal. But in comes Falkner on his I'm forgetting what it's called, Noctowl. There we go. Riding in on his Noctowl, launching back the lower half of the masked man. Falkner puts cuffs on the legs. It's still fighting back, so I get it. Falkner says, "You're under arrest." As Blaine says, "A chopped off lower body?" Falkner, takes the clothing off of the lower half of the masked man, and as he sees it, he says, "What is this? A huge ice cube?" Meanwhile, down below, the chairman asks Whitney, You know who attacked this place?" Whitney says, "Yeah." Morty says, "I'm probably thinking of the same person as her right now." Yeah, it was kind of obvious Morty caught on too. But the chairman says, Who is it?" And sure enough, they say, "It's him, the leader of the gym leader of Mahogany Town, Price." And he stands revealed in front of Gold, still in his wheelchair, with the rest of his body being made up of ice, his Swinub in his lap. It's none other than Price under the mask of ice. Much to the shock of Gold, who says, "You?" It's very Scooby-Doo, but the menace was there. It's just, I like that they really gave it to you really early on. You could figure it out, but at the same time, it was obviously other gym leaders were figuring it out. But at the same time, the moment you met Price, it gave it away. Because it's like, okay, no. Why would he have this copy Suicune in the presence and all of that? And the way he acted, how deceptive it was, just a variety of shady things he did just kind of gave it away. But it's like, if you weren't paying attention, you never would have suspected it. Which, I like that. I like a good mystery that it's like, it's there. It's there if you're paying attention. But the downside is I was also already privy to the fact that it was Price. It's something I already knew beforehand, just because the Pokemon Wiki spoiled it for me. But that was years ago. Years and years ago. There's like an image of Price holding the mask of ice. But I think that's like the last mystery that I'm privy to going forward. But it was one of the biggest mysteries. But again, it really gave it away. The clues were all there. The hints were all there. If you weren't paying attention, that's the only way you wouldn't catch on. And you'd have to really not be paying attention. Regardless. Finally, we cut over to Green, who's in... Is she in Elix Forest? Huh. And where's Silver? I thought maybe she would be involved in the battle at the Pokemon League, but no, we have her here. It has to be Elix Forest, which is where I thought maybe she sent Silver, but maybe not. Well, she releases her Snubbull, saying, "Here we are. This is the final goal. The place that man will come to. This is the Elix Forest." As she races in. In Chapter 173, The Last Battle, Part 7. As she dashes through the forest, she says to herself, I've got to hurry. You need to get to the center of the forest. A voice calls out, looking for the shrine? Green is shocked as she looks around. The voice calls out, do you really expect to find it? This forest is a maze. You'll be lucky if you don't get lost for an eternity. Green calls out, Snubbull, over there, scary face. And as the figure is hit by the attack, they drop from the brush, saying, so, you found me. Oh, it's them. Oh, snap. I mean, this is, I guess, as good a way of any in order to get the two main members of Johto Elite Four to be present, although they're the next generation of the Elite Four, because the Indigo League is connected between Johto and Kanto, which has always kind of been weird to me. But it's an Umbreon, right? Yeah, Umbreon, that falls from the brush. His voice calls out, and thanks to your Snubbull's scary face, Karen's Umbreon is unable to move quickly. Karen says, because you weren't taking this seriously enough, Will. Will laughs. I guess you're right. And the two drop from the brush, revealed before Green. Green says, you. Karen says, this is the first time we've met face to face, isn't it? But I recognize you by your smell. You were a mass child too, just like us. As Will gives a bow. I'll be honest, I barely remember these two. I kind of just beat them and went. They didn't leave the same impression on me as the the Kanto Elite Four, which I say despite the fact that they're all Indigo Elite Four. Karen and Will, I don't know, they weren't bad characters. They just did not have the same impact. Yeah, I had to look it up, but I'm realizing it's because they never appeared in the anime. They never appeared in the anime outside of the Gotcha Pokemon AMV music video thing. That's why they never had a bit of an impact, which is kind of a bummer because I remember fighting them, but I don't remember thinking of them after the fact. And that's because I never actually got to get a vibe for them in terms of animation. That's unfortunate. They almost feel like an afterthought. But Karen calls out, and we knew that you'd come here, Green of Pallet Town. Green commands her Snubbull to go in using Bite, but Karen commands her Umbreon to use Feint Attack. The two attacks hit each other. Snubbull gives a bit of a shiner on its eye, although Umbreon's paw is bitten into. As Snubbull is knocked back, Green has Snubbull use Charm, kind of subduing Umbreon a little bit. And Green says right after Charm, Takedown. The Snubbull rams into Umbreon. Umbreon is launched back as it licks at its bitten paw. Will laughs, ooh, nice, not bad at all. But we can't let you through today, can we, Karen? Karen says, afraid not. We guard this forest for the Mask of Ice. They come off as Jesse and James from Team Rocket, but more so when they first appeared, when they were kind of menacing, but also kind of not. Karen calls out, tonight, at long last, he is going to capture time. We can't let you get any closer to the Elix Forest Shrine. Green says, capture time. I knew it. Will goes, oh, you did. Well, I suppose you must have, otherwise you wouldn't have come here. In that case, I'm guessing you didn't steal those two feathers purely by coincidence either, as he sends out a Xatu, sending it into the attack. Oh, right, it's a bird. And seeing the bird, Green freaks out, diving out of the way with her Snubbull, which also allows her to avoid Xatu's attack. Which, Xatu always had that weird face on its belly? Oh, because I'm used to it always being hidden under its wings. Okay, that's why. Looking at this, I'm like, man, I'm not used to actually seeing Xatu's belly. Freaky. Will says, you're not going anywhere. Psychic. And Xatu unleashes psychic beams into the brush. Will laughing all the while, saying he was very angry when you stole those from him, you know. He'll never forgive you for that. After all, it took him years to recapture Lugia and Ho-Oh to gather those feathers. The Rainbow Wing and Silver Wing are essential items to enter the crack in time. As Green is trembling in the brush from Zatu's attack. Snubbull tries his best to comfort her, but as Will goes on, he says, "That's why he's given us strict orders to keep you away from that shrine. He is going to be here any minute now with a completed version of the Pokeball, which captures time. That's what those feathers are for. And no one can stop him. Although there's one person who might be able to, namely you with those 2 feathers." And with a blast from Zatu, Green's hiding place is destroyed. She tries to run, but Zatu appears before her again, causing her to shrink back in terror. Will laughs. "We've got you cornered this time." And Karen scoffs. "Come on, be a good girl and hand over those feathers." Seriously, when I read it like Jesse and James when they first appeared, it feels spot on. Will says, "Let's be friends. After all, we trained together back when we had our masks on our faces." Which is kind of funny considering Will's still wearing a mask. I thought Will was actually kind of cool back in the day. I wish I had gotten to play it's Heart Gold and Soul Silver. I really want to play those at some point because I feel like the sprites had a lot more personality. Because that's when they got their better outfit. Because the Heart Gold and Soul Silver outfits for Will and Karen just have a little bit more detail to them. You know, Karen comes off a little bit haughty and stuff. What is her specialty? Dark types. Yeah, that's cool. And Will specializes in psychic types. Yeah, because Karen has the Umbreon, while Will has the Espeon. Yeah, that was a good relation. And Will kind of like is a little bit of a magician and stuff. Oh, wait, no. Will doesn't have an Espeon. Why did I think he had an Espeon? Is there no version of Will that has an Espeon? Wait, what does he specialize in? Psychic types, right? Why doesn't he have an Espeon? What? I thought he had an Espeon. I feel stupid. I really thought he had an Espeon. Dang. That's kind of a bummer. That would have made so much sense, though. What? Hold on. It's because they gave the Espeon to Red. Oh, that's what it was. Oh, you could have still given Will an Espeon, though. I don't know. I feel like he should have an Espeon. I don't know why I'm so hung up on this. I feel like he should have an Espeon because of the prominence of Dark and Psychic types. I mean, that's kind of a bummer. I don't know. Regardless, Green, as she struggles against the Zatu, she says, "You mean you were waiting for me to get the feathers back?" Karen says, "That's right." And Green says, "In that case, I'm sorry to tell you that I don't have the feathers on me. I hid them. Yep, in a very safe place." As we see that the feathers she gave to Yellow long ago were actually the gold and silver. Well, the silver and rainbow wing, which, dang. Again, the forethought in this series. Meanwhile, in the radio, in the daycare center, someone calls out, "If any can hear, there's been terrible Neo Team Rocket has raid on Pokemon League, mass hiding half faces." The daycare lady says, "What in the world is happening over there? Jasmine. Oh, she's on the radio trying to call out. Okay. The daycare man says, "Calm down, please." The fisherman says, "Neo Team Rocket, they said. Mass hiding half the faces?" As Yellow looks to the doorway, she says, "They must look like," and we see the members of Neo Team Rocket right out the doorway. The others turn saying, and the fisherman says, "Yeah, they must." And then he takes a moment, and they all turn saying, "What?" Yeah, you wouldn't really expect them to just be in your doorway as they just start coming into the daycare center. The fisherman says, "What are the people attacking the Pokemon League doing here?" Yellow says, "Mister, we have to protect those two somehow. Pika, Choo-Choo." But she sees Pika and Choo-Choo doing their best to hide their egg. Well, protect their egg. Yellow thinks they're too busy protecting the egg. She calls out, "Okay, Pika and Choo-Choo, you protect the egg. Mister, use Dodo and escape with those two. I'll take care of them." Fisherman says, "Gotcha." The fisherman takes the daycare couple out the back, while Yellow unleashes her Omnistar. Oh, is it? It's Omnistar, yep. Her Raticate and her Butterfree in order to fight back against the members of Team Rocket. Oh, it's the balloon Pikachu. It's the only way Pikachu uses fly, with the balloons. It would be funny if Yellow's Pikachu didn't learn to use Surf, but instead learn to use Fly That would be funny. And they're able to avoid being caught by the members of Team Rocket. Oh, geez. While Yellow is turned away, seeing that the Pikachu as well as the daycare couple have gotten away, she says, good, looks like they managed to get away. But she narrowly avoids being cut by a knife wielded by a member of Team Rocket. They've all got knives. That's terrifying. And she's backed up against the wall saying, back off. But, well, it's the sliding wooden screen as hands come bursting out, grabbing at her hat. She doesn't realize they're going for the hat, though, because this is horrifying. Oh, but she then says, they're after my hat? But then she notices, oh no, she doesn't notice, as the wrappings around the feathers on her hat are, sliced away, revealing the rainbow and silver wings. See, it's weird that they're called wings as they're actually feathers. Back in Elix Forest, Will says, what should we do, Karen? Green told us the feathers are hidden in a safe place. Karen says, Green seems sure we'll never be able to find it, and pities us. Who'll be sorry in the end, I thought this might happen, so I've already sent some soldiers out to a certain place I have a hunch about. They should be storming it right now. Much to Green's shock, Karen goes in, grabbing Green by her chin, saying, poor Green, you ran away in the middle of your training, while we continue to train with him. So naturally, the end result has to be that we're better than you. And if you don't believe me, I'll just have to school you. As she points up in the sky, telling Green to look, as Ho-Oh is there. Green starts to have a panic attack. Man, this is kind of messed up. just forcing the trauma on her. Will grabs her arm, saying, he gave it to us. He's got no need for it now that he's attacked the Pokemon League. So we're allowed to use it any way we want. Karen grabs Green's face, saying, take a good look. While Green shouts, no, no. As tears fill her eyes, Karen grabs her face and continues to try to force it towards Ho-Oh, saying, aren't you frightened? After all, this is the bird Pokemon that kidnapped you when you were little. The Pokemon that traumatized you is right here before you. And Will lifts his lips, saying, surrender to the horrors of your past. As Green is consumed by the memories, shouting, no! Ending out this video. Yeah, I'll tell you, that's pretty dang messed up. Feel your trauma! Feel your childhood trauma! Just save us! Come on, man. See, I feel bad because ultimately, technically, Will and Karen are also victims. This is just how they deal with it. They just accepted their role as minions. But honestly, because I don't think we'll have Will and Karen completely bad. Because even when it came to the Elite Four previously, there was some element that left you sympathetic to Lance, to Agatha to a certain degree. Agatha, and even Lance, but definitely when it came to Lorelai and Bruno. And so with Will and Karen, I feel that because it's outright said, kids with special aptitudes were kidnapped. So Will and Karen are just at the masked man's bidding. I was kind of hoping we get a little bit more of why Price is doing this, though, because that's what I don't know, why he's doing all this. Yeah, he wants the Celebi for time, but is it just to reclaim his lost youth or something? And he seemed to have, there was this old friendship with Agatha, Oak, and Kurt and all them. Was Price included in that too? But I love the Gold's tenacity and all, It would have been nice to see Crystal get a little bit more in on the action, but man, that desperate battle, that was fun though. Misty went in hard. Like, Misty was going for the gusto. Just dang. But man, there's only 7 more chapters in there. What else can we really do? I'm wondering what else really is there. Cause Green is confronted by Ho-Oh. Will Blue confront Lugia? I could see maybe that happening. And maybe Red comes into the picture to help fight against, I've already said it, Celebi, but it all depends on how that goes down. Because I actually don't know if they ever do get to Celebi. Or maybe that's saved for the next story arc? No, because we're in Ruby and Sapphire. Oh, it's Emerald comes after Ruby and Sapphire. I keep thinking it comes next. And I keep thinking there's some kind of Crystal arc. But we have Crystal. Okay, so yeah, that's a little weird. Yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. Dang, I'm feeling kind of anxious because there's only so much time left. With the previous story arcs, it always felt like there was more than enough time to wrap things up. Like we were really in the thick of the final battle and all that. But here it feels like, yeah, it feels like we don't have enough time. Well, we'll just have to wait and see. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Like, comment, subscribe if you enjoyed the ride. Thank you so much for watching. And until next time, I've been Duuz-Diz-Din and hope to see you later. Till then, take care. Bye-bye.